The Victorian era is a period that entices people from all over the world. Technology evolved rapidly, the political sphere of the world would change dramatically, and vast medical and scientific discoveries were made. While the world would evolve, the woman that this time period is named after would remain a beacon of stability, tradition, and a maternal figure to her country. This is the story of Queen Victoria. Born on May 24, 1819, as Alexandrina Victoria in Kensington Palace, Victoria was the only child of her father, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, the fourth son of King George III. Victoria was the third child, however, born to her mother, Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg Saalfeld, the Duchess of Kent. The Duchess of Kent had been married once before, producing a son and a daughter. Victoria's birth was welcomed. Her cousin, Princess Charlotte of Wales, daughter of the future King George IV and his wife Caroline, died in childbirth in 1817, aged only 21. The remaining sons of King George III raced to wed and father a legitimate heir, resulting in the birth of Victoria. If Charlotte never died, there would have been a chance that Victoria was never born. Little Victoria was christened a month after her birth by the Archbishop of Canterbury on June 24, 1819, in Kensington Palace. At the time of her birth, Victoria was fifth in line to the throne. She was behind her uncles George, Frederick, William, and her own father Edward. On June 23, 1820, when Victoria was just 8 months old, her father died at the age of 52 due to pneumonia. Her grandfather, the infamous Mad King George III, died a week later at the age of 81 on June 29, 1820. After the death of her father, Victoria's life would soon become a nightmare. After the death of her uncles Frederick and King George IV in 1827 and 1830 respectively, Victoria became the heir presumptive to her uncle, King William IV. If King William IV died while Victoria was still a child, her mother, the Duchess of Kent, would become her regent. Even though young Victoria was a princess, her life was far from a classic fairy tale. Victoria was brought up under an oppressive regime created by the Duchess of Kent and her attendant, John Conroy, called the Kensington System. The system was designed at making Victoria weak and dependent on others, but the opposite effect would happen. Victoria was kept isolated from other children her age. Every action was recorded and controlled. Victoria was also restricted in who she could speak to, limited to her older half-sister, Princess Feodora, and John Conroy's own daughter, Victoire. Victoria was not allowed out of the sight of her mother, her tutor, or her governesses. Victoria's schooling began when she was a young girl of 5 years old, with lessons beginning at 9:30, with a break at 11:30. Victoria would then resume her lessons from 3 to 5 p.m. Victoria was educated on scripture, decorum, reading, writing, and the Greek, Latin, Italian, French, and German languages. After her lessons, Victoria would be questioned by her mother on what she learned. Harsh punishments were also placed on the princess if she did something her mother or Conroy thought broke protocol. Victoria entered her teenage years. She refused to allow Conroy and her mother to break her will and refused their attempts to have Conroy join Victoria's staff. In 1836, Queen Victoria's uncle, King Leopold I of Belgium, who was the widower of Princess Charlotte of Wales, arranged a meeting between Princess Victoria and his nephew, Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Victoria described Albert in her diary as, Albert is extremely handsome. His hair is about the same color as mine, his eyes are large and blue, and he has a beautiful nose and a very sweet mouth with fine teeth. But the charm of his countenance is his expression, which is most delightful. Victoria was only 17 at the time and was not yet ready for marriage. On June 20th, 1837, the nightmare of the Kensington System finally came to an end, as Victoria would finally become queen, almost 1 month after she turned 18, meaning that she did not need her controlling mother to be regent for her. This followed Salic law, which banned women from inheriting the crown. Due to this, Victoria's uncle, Ernest Augustus, became King of Hanover. Victoria was a popular monarch at first, as she was a breath of fresh air from her scandalous uncles, but scandal would soon follow Victoria. Victoria was not the biggest fan of John Conroy after the emotional turmoil he put her through for over a decade with the Kensington System. Victoria believed the rumors circling around court that Flora Hastings, a lady-in-waiting for her mother, was pregnant out of wedlock with John Conroy. Victoria also was not a huge fan of her mother for her part in the system and effectively banished her mother to the corners of her life. Albert would visit Victoria again in October 1839, and she was still head over heels for the German-speaking prince. Victoria knew that this was the man she wanted to spend the rest of her days with. It was considered inappropriate if Albert asked Victoria to marry him since he was of a lower rank, so Victoria asked Albert instead. On February 10th, 1840, Victoria and Albert were married in the Chapel Royal of St. James's Palace. Victoria quickly became pregnant and gave birth to her first child, Vicky, the Princess Royal, in November 1840. 8 more children would follow. Albert Edward, or Bertie, was born in November 1841, Princess Alice in April 1843, Prince Alfred, born August 1844, Princess Helena, born in May 1846, Princess Louise, born in March 1848, Prince Arthur, born in May 1850, Prince Leopold, born in April 1853, and Princess Beatrice, born in April 1857. During the births of her last 2 children, Victoria had chloroform used. Victoria was not fond of newborn babies or pregnancy, and after being pregnant 9 times, I don't think many people can blame her for being tired. Politically, Victoria tried to improve relations between Britain and France, and when the Irish potato famine happened, she gave the largest donation from a single person to relief efforts, donating £2,000, equal to over £175,000 in 2016. Albert was also named Prince Consort rather than King. Victoria would survive over 7 attempts on her life between 1840 and 1882. Victoria and Albert also hoped to strengthen political ties with Prussia and spread their liberal views. They arranged the marriage of their eldest daughter Vicky to Prince Friedrich Wilhelm of Prussia. When Vicky was 17, she was sent away to Prussia. Victoria was heartbroken at having to give her eldest daughter away, saying it made her sick at heart. In a letter to Vicky, Victoria wrote, "When I look round to all your sweet, happy sisters and think I must give them up too, one by one." Vicky and Prince Friedrich of Prussia were married on January 26, 1858. A year later, Vicky gave birth to Albert and Victoria's first grandchild, the future Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, in January 1859. Everything seemed to be looking up for Victoria. Her family was happy, her country was securing political alliances, and she was now a proud grandmother. But her happiness would soon come to a halt once more. In March 1861, Victoria's mother, the Duchess of Kent, died at the age of 74, same as when he died, as if he would return home from a walk at any given moment. Mourning would consume Victoria, and her popularity plummeted as the public saw less and less of their monarch. In 1866, Victoria developed a friendly relationship with her Scottish servant named John Brown, who spoke to Victoria as if she was any other woman rather than a queen. The two could be seen spending time together, drinking and having fun. Victoria was jokingly called Mrs. Brown. It was somewhat heartwarming to finally see Victoria happy after the death of her beloved angel Albert. When John Brown died at the age of 56 in 1883, Victoria wrote in her diary that for the second time she was heavily affected by a loss. Based on her wording, John Brown's death affected Victoria just as much as Prince Albert's did. Victoria once again felt grief, as if her husband had died a second time. But time moves on, and Britain became a lead in the stage play of politics. In 1857, during the Indian Rebellion, Victoria wrote in her diary calling out the atrocities committed by both the British and the Indians during the conflict. In 1876, Prime Minister Disraeli had an act pushed in Parliament that named Victoria the Empress of India. On December 14, 1878, on the anniversary of Prince Albert's death, Victoria's daughter Alice died of diphtheria. Victoria was once again heartbroken and mourned her daughter deeply. Victoria would also lose two of her sons, Leopold aged 30 in 1884 and Alfred in 1900 aged 55. Both of these losses affected Victoria greatly. In 1887, the British Empire would celebrate Victoria's Golden Jubilee and her 5 long decades on the throne. Victoria, standing 5 feet tall, was seen as a grandmother figure and was incredibly popular all over the world. At this point, the monarchy was not too closely involved in politics as past monarchs and were simply figureheads for the British government. Victoria hired 2 Indian Muslims, and one of them, Abdul Karim, would become very close with the Queen. Victoria was interested in learning about India, and Abdul Karim served as her munshi, or teacher. Victoria was very protective of Karim, and would ridicule anyone who made a prejudiced comment against him, treating Abdul as if he were her own son. In September 1896, Victoria broke the record as the longest-serving reigning monarch in British history, beating her grandfather King George III's record at 59 years. Victoria ruling for 63. Queen Elizabeth II broke this record when she celebrated 70 years as Queen in 2022. While at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight, Victoria's health photograph of him were also placed in the coffin. Victoria was a complex woman and wrote her most private thoughts in her diary. She wrote an average of over 2,000 words a day, totaling 60 million words in her entire lifetime. Starting from about age 12 until her death at 81, Victoria wrote enough words to fill over 120 volumes, an entire life documented in great detail. Her diaries were edited by her daughter Beatrice, who removed details that would have offended Victoria's family. Victoria is remembered as a grieving widow, but she was so much more than that. She was strong, determined, had a great sense of humor, and was deeply affected by her turbulent childhood, and she wanted to be loved after so much loss. Victoria once said, "We do not believe in the possibilities of defeat. They do not exist." This quote can be used to Victoria's own life. She was controlled by her mother and Conroy, but rose like a phoenix from the ashes after so much heartbreak. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and please subscribe to Sweet History Tea, a channel full of random facts and lots of sparkles. If you would like to support my channel, all the available links are down in the description below. It is not expected, but it is always appreciated. Thank you so much again for watching, and until next time.
There's a part of myself I'm missing. Now I got a lot to